Talking to me, don't you leave me by myself. There's something in the way you're moving, you can make me lose my breath. Keep on talking to me. In a room of flashing lights, you pull me closer as we dance. It's you and midnight. Let's leave now and get undressed, undressed. Look in my eyes and holding me close. I know you won't let me down. For the rest of the night until break of dawn, baby, it's the two of us. I know you won't let me down. And holding me close, I know you won't let me down. For the rest of the night until break of dawn, baby, it's the two of us. I know you won't let me down.
Yeah, it's a hot day. I'm hanging in the sunshine. You should hit me with the splash gun so I cool down. Won't you come on over? We can party till the sun's down. Baby, let me buy you a drink while we're dancing a blink. I could go for some Queen Bee too. Bass is going boom boom. If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over. We can take the roller coaster.
Okay. Alright, come back. Amazing.
Well, it's just another Friday. Paradise. So bring your A game.
What was the other thing you did though?
This party won't stop.
I know you just went crazy. Yeah, do something really stupid now. That's it. I love it. That's it.
Well, g'day everyone. Oh, I better turn the light on. How are we going? Good to see you all here again for the day. I just seen Stephen saying she's uniquely beautiful. Yeah, Kiara is absolutely amazing. I have got another couple of videos to show of Kiara that I've still got to put together. So that'll be coming in the coming weeks. I just haven't had time to do it. So I have still got 2 fresh ones coming up. So I'll look forward to putting those together. I'm drinking my Milo again today, which is a chocolate milk. So people, if they don't know what I'm drinking, that's what I am today. Nice. So we've got really some exciting news today, haven't we? Which Sony have finally announced that they're going to announced the camera on the 28th, I think. So hang on, wait a minute. Are you waiting for it? Here we go. Oh, where are we? I'm so excited. I've been like a kid in a candy shop. You know, the worst part for me is it's 12 o'clock my time, PM, so who knows if I'll be able to do a live shot on the night. I mean, I hope I can, but it might be too early. Now, we are in pre-show at the moment. I just want to go through and sort of welcome everyone that has popped in. So let me just check this is all ready to go. Let me move all this out of the way. I was rushing trying to get everything ready this morning. Let me go there. Drag that over there. Drag that over here, and then I'll say hello to everyone through the show. So let's see who's in here anyway at the moment. So YouTube's here, already 5 dislikes. I know there's 8 already, that Sony haters. Oh, they don't realise that they still give notifications to the channel. That's what cracks me up about them. I put this up last night and I had 5 last night. It was hilarious. Matthew said, is there a show today? Well, yes, Matthew, because we're on here now. Hero's here as well. Matthew said, has anyone wondered where we go after 8K video? Well, 12K has just been announced by Blackmagic, and I'll talk about that later on in the show today. 16K, obviously. William said, hi, David. Anything... having another late night, but your show is always worth it to keep me up. Billy from Scotland. Thanks so much, Billy. Aaron's here as well. He's late. Alexander says the real feature for the 12K Blackmagic camera is that it gives you the clean 4K with 444 color sampling and 0D layering as artifacts, is it? It sounds like it's going to be a really good camera. After you said 6 thumbs, well, it's down to 8 now. I love it. We were joking about that. Sting said it's all interaction that helps promote the video. That's right. That's what they don't understand. That's what cracks me up about it. Phil's also saying good morning. 12K, 8K. I can't keep up. Neither can I. It's just getting ridiculous. Alexander said, is anyone else disappointed with the 12 megapixel on the a7S III? I'm hoping for a hybrid shooter. Don't know if I can justify the expense. And I'm going to talk about that, Alexander. I don't think the 12 megapixels is a problem at all. But I'll talk to you about that shortly. Matthew said the Blackmagic 12K probably doesn't overheat. It probably won't, particularly in that size body as well. The Blackmagic 12K, I just read that. Chris also said, hello, David. Warm, sunny day in Los Angeles. Today, what's that? A Miller Lite, is it? The mysterious camera is going to be revealed soon. I'm not sure what that is. That is a coffee, is it? No, it's a cold day today. It's actually only, what is it? Are we 6 degrees? It's cool down here this morning. Lovely morning, though. What else? Barry's here as well. Langston saying, hey. George also said greetings from New Jersey, where it's hotter than the Canon R5. Hero said Sony hype. At least we have some for a change, which is going to be so exciting. Where do you get your music from? Epi, what is it? It's, I'll tell you. I get it exactly from here. So I'll show you the exact site that I get it from. From this site. So I get it from Epidemic Sound. So that's the, I've got to move it down. So that's the place that I get it from. So that tells you the site through there. So that's where I get it from. Let me go back to me. What else have we got? Oh, sorry about that. Sean says, howdy, 42 Pro says, I wonder what the GH6 will bring us. Well, that's probably going to be interesting too. It's probably going to be a great camera. Guy with the camera, Osler video or Zoom meeting with school. I love that. Rodell said, hello, David. I hope the S3 will deliver. I think it's going to. I think they've had plenty of time to do it, and I think they're going to do it very, very well. Matthew said the A7 IV is most likely the hybrid camera. Yep, and it will be, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Phil said, is that your daughter? No, it's just a girl that I worked with for a long period of time, Kiara. Liam says, good intro. Thank you so much for that. Chris also said, nice video. Thank you. Just gets me why I'm getting organised, getting everything ready. I can just play some videos that I've done. It gives you something to watch as well while I'm getting organised. It's been an expensive couple of weeks. Traded in my 200 to 600. Wow. And my Tamron 70 to 180, my a7 III kit lens, and replaced them with a 100-400 GM and the a7R3. Wow. So you just didn't like the 200 to 600, Rob? John said, wedding photographers should be really happy with the a7 III. Yeah, videographers particularly. Not sure about photographers though, John, but I'll talk about that. Brett says, hello, world. Alexander says it's not a hybrid. Oh, you're talking about that. Yeah, I'll mention that. 12 megapixels sucks. They should have gone at least with 24 so we can shoot stills. Yeah, but like I said, Alexander, I'm going to talk about that when we go through the specs. But the 12 megapixels, remember the a7S III is not classified as a stills camera. The a7S III is a video camera that can take stills. Now, I'll go through all of this when we go through the specs and everything about why it's good. I think it's actually a good thing, but Stephen said, yes, Kiara is uniquely beautiful. Yeah, she's lovely, and a lovely girl as well. What else? Oops, where did we go down to? I hate it when it jumps like that. Yeah, it's not a hybrid, so we're down there. That's right, Seattle. Getting the Tamron 70 to 180 soon in the next few days. You'll love it, Sean. It's a great lens, that one for sure. Mark's here as well. G'day, Mark. Hot Cannon Coffee. Leslie said, hi, David. Hope everyone is well. Just got the 90mm macro and are in lockdown. That's a great lens, that one. Really sharp. Langston said 12 megapixel is good for video, however, and they have many photo focus cameras. Yep, I agree, Langston. Raven's in the live show as well. B&B Films is also here. Rodell is saying, this deserves the Santa hat to be broken out. Well, I might do that after it's announced. Oh, I love it. I'm just scrolling down to see everyone's saying hello, which is great. Brett said 12K. Says, man, I think I'll hold out for 16K. They're all talking about the new cameras that are released next week, 20K cameras. I love it. That's about it, I think. Let me just scroll down. I think we can keep going. On the A7S II, if you shoot uncompressed RAW, you get 24 megapixels, so it wasn't too bad when I took pics with it. A7S III might be good for astrophotography. Yeah, it'll be certainly a low light beast, that's for sure. Wait for a sale, not paying retail. Initial price drop is brutal. Yeah, I've found that here too. I think when I bought my A9, I paid 7,000 Australian dollars. Within 12 months, I think it went down to about 4.5. I couldn't believe it. It was a big drop. Rob also said, I love the pictures from the 200 to 600, but it was just too big to carry around. Yeah, I can fully understand that. It is a really big lens. Langston also said, I would question the workflow of switching photo modes when a high-speed environment like a wedding, it doesn't make sense. Even says, I got the Tamron 70 to 180 and the 17 to 28 this week, and I'm loving them. You will. They're both great lenses. They really are. Literally the definition of Christmas in July. I love it. My a7 III still rocks, and it does, Aaron. There's nothing wrong with the a7 III, that's for sure. Ricky said, hi, everyone. So excited and interesting to see what comes out next. All right, let me put this down because I think I'll take these off for a bit now. So let's have a look. So let's start the show, and I'm going to, now before I do that, let me just bring up this because I wanted to show the photography videography school. This site we're nearly up to 7,000 subscribers. I think we're only around about 60 members short of going to 7,000. So I'd love it if you could join us. Because it's just a great site. I mean, it has wonderful stories. I noticed Altric posted a story this morning, and I noticed one of the comments, and this is something I'm going to bring up later on about the Sony announcement. I noticed one of the comments that were inside this, the R6 announcement that he posted, or where were we? Let me show more of these, because I noticed one of the things that Altric said. Now, Altric is a Sony shooter, so he fully understands what's going on about the touchscreen at the back. And I noticed that he said down here, this comment here came up, and oh my God, I hope Sony addresses this. Sony needs that touch interface bad. Now, Altric, you can comment in the live chat, because you can also say, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because I used the EOS R. And the touch interface on that particularly, when you do not want to go back to the Sony interface once you've used, say, something like the EOS R, the touch interface is brilliant. It's the same for Nikon too, but I just loved using that EOS R interface. If Sony don't address that, they really are crazy if they keep the touch screen the way it is. But I'll talk about that once we go through the rumours. But I noticed that he did mention that, so you can also pop in that live chat and sort of say that too. But the touch screen is completely... it's a generational leap compared to what we're using on the Sony cameras. But please join us on this site if you can. I mean, it just has some wonderful things. I love this photo that was posted this morning. But there's just great stuff. We have weekly competitions. It's video and stills people share on here. Ike's been sharing stuff from his YouTube channel. Billy's photo. Billy shoots great street photo, is always posting in there. Gilbert's always posting in there. Langston's put some information about the 12K camera as well. And each week we have a competition where the header up here, I put out a competition, and the weekly one that wins that gets put into the header of the group. So please join us if you haven't joined us. Like I said, I'd love to get up to that 7,000 in the next couple of days. So yeah, please join us there if you can. So let's get started anyway, because I want to get through the show. So let's get started on the show. I'll just play the little intro and then we'll get going.
If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over, we can take the roller coaster. And you know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. Water slide.
Well, welcome everyone. We have just had a bit of a pre-show. G'day Jim, because Jim's also joined, I just noticed. Mark also said I would never use a touchscreen on a camera. Oh, Mark, I certainly would, particularly if you're a YouTuber like me, where you can have the screen facing forward, and to be able to touch it for exposure and a lot of other things. A front-facing touchscreen is amazing. Just to get through the menus alone, it is incredible. If you've seen something like the EOS R, it just destroys what Sony have got at the moment. But hopefully that's going to be addressed. I'm hoping it does get addressed in the Sony a7S III. It's probably the one downfall of the ZV-1 that I'm using at the moment. is that it hasn't got that touchscreen. I really wish that they put it on that as well. But welcome everyone. We've got some big announcements from Sony. We now know that they're going to announce it on July the 28th, which we've got here. It's going to be announced at 10 a.m. EDT time. So I suppose is that LA time or is that New York time? I'm not sure. But all I know is it's about 12 o'clock midnight here. That's the time that it's going to be announced. So whether I'm up, I'm not sure. I'm usually in bed by 10 o'clock, so I don't know whether I'll be able to stay up. But if I don't do a live on it, I'll definitely do one as soon as I get up that morning. But it's going to be really, really exciting, I think. So they've said in here that Sony confirms our rumour. The Sony a7S will be announced in July the 28th. And I'm going to go through some of the things that they're saying is in the specifications, that are rumour specifications, and then I might talk about some of the things that they haven't mentioned, like the touch screen and things like that. So let's go through. I know some are commenting about that touchscreen, like Mark says. He's not. Basically, I don't think he wants that. But like I said, I'm talking about it from a videographer perspective. Mark, I think, is more stills, so he may not need it. But from a videographer side, I think the touchscreen is really, really important. But let's have a look at some of the specs anyway. So they're saying Sony Alpha just launched a teaser image confirming the validity of our rumour. The camera will be announced on July the 28th. And what they're saying is that at this stage, it's going to be a 12 megapixel sensor with a fast readout. Now, they don't know for sure yet whether this is that quad Bayer 48 megapixel sensor with effective 12 megapixel or a simple 12 megapixel. So they're not saying yet what that sensor is. I think it's going to be a really, really fast readout sensor. I think what they'll try and do here is they'll keep it at 12 megapixel. It'll also be a very, very fast readout one. I think they're going to probably try and eliminate rolling shutter. And I think they'll probably do that with that sensor. Now, if it's something like a readout like what the A9 has, I've always said all along that I think the video aspect from the A9 is really, really good, and it's because of the fast readout of that sensor. The rolling shutter and everything is much less in that sensor in full frame, and it works really, really great, actually. And I've used that. That's probably my favourite video camera since I bought it. I'll use that always, even over the a7 III, even though it hasn't got picture profiles. So I probably think they'll have something similar in the A9 version that is a very, very fast readout sensor, maybe probably back illuminated. I mean, we don't know yet, but it's going. I would think that the time that Sony has had this camera in development, it's going to be extremely fast in the readout and will have almost no rolling shutter. Now, 12 megapixels to me, it makes perfect sense. The reason why I'm saying that is you can have more light gathering in this camera. Now, remember, I know that the Sony product manager said that they weren't really that fussed about the high ISO anymore, and yet they come out with 409, 600,000 ISO. So it's going to be amazing in ISO. And I also think having that 12 megapixel sensor with those big pixels is going to give us incredible dynamic range. And in fact, they're talking about, I think it was 14-bit. Did I read somewhere where they were talking about that? Let me just check in this next thing. I did read somewhere where they were saying that it was going to be a 14-bit files. I can't remember. 14 stops, I mean. No, I can't. I might be able to find a little bit later. I think what you're going to find is it's going to be amazing. The dynamic range of this camera is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be 15 stops. There you go. It is. It's actually on there. I'll show you where it actually says it. It's talking about it right there. 15 stops of dynamic range, which is going to be brilliant. And we know already that Sony's dynamic range is class leading anyway, really. I mean, although I've looked at the Canon EOS R5 and it actually seems to be really good in the dynamic range. When I watched that Peter McKinnon's video, I'm going to show a little bit about that today because there's something which is an issue. But the dynamic range looks amazing, but I think the Sony is going to kill it. I think the dynamic range of the Sony is going to be amazing. So I think 12 megapixels is a great idea. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because, remember, guys, don't expect the a7S III to be a fusion type camera or a hybrid type camera. This is going to be a camera really solely for video that can shoot stills. Now, 12 megapixels is actually ample for nearly almost everything you will do that's online, in video, etc. Now, I used to shoot weddings with a D3S. It was a Nikon. I used to shoot weddings with the D3S, and that was a 12 megapixel sensor, and I could blow those photos up to really large sizes, and they were still really beautiful. So don't believe 12 megapixels is not enough to work with. Yes, it's not massive megapixels like the 66 we're getting now and 24 in the A7 IIIs, but remember, it's perfect for dealing with it from a videographer's perspective, of being able to share those files online, being able to use those images inside a video presentation, things like that. It's perfect for that, but you are getting the advantage of really good low light, and you're also going to get amazing dynamic range, and less processing is going to be required to do what it needs to do. The problem is if you're getting these massive megapixels, those like when you're looking with the EOS R5, for instance, that all has to be downsampled to get to your video resolutions that you're going to mostly use. Now that takes processing power, which in fact also causes heat. And this is one of the main reasons, I suppose, why Canon are having issues with their cameras with heat. And I'll talk about that shortly, because it really is an issue. Well, if you're dealing with 12 megapixels, they're not going to have anywhere near the amount of pixels to push around, or to sort of eliminate heat. So that's one great advantage. Now, when we're talking about heat, I'm just going to go to Canon for a minute, because I just want to bring this up to talk about this while we're here. Let me just show you this. Some of the figures that we're looking at with the Canon camera here, these are figures that we know. I've talked about this before, but this has been a little bit updated. The EOS R5 can do 8K video for 20 minutes. It can do 4K 120 for 15 minutes. And if it's full sensor width 4K 60, you get 35 minutes. And APS-C crop, you get 25 minutes. Now, the interesting thing is, though, at 4K 30 and 24p, they're saying that it's not limited by heat. But, and this is the big but, you're limited here that they're saying this is at 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is indoors. If you go out into the sun, if you're like in here in Australia doing weddings and you're at 100 degree Fahrenheit, who knows if the 4K 30 or the 4K 24 is going to overheat, because remember, you're dealing with, they're saying that it won't overheat at 23 degrees Celsius or 73. The second you take that outside the sun, that temperature is going to jump up dramatically. So there are issues that are there, and Canon have admitted that. Now, good on Canon for admitting it, but they are saying that there's heating in nearly all modes apart from that 4K 30 as well. In fact, the EOS R6 does overheat in every single thing that they're saying there, because it doesn't have anywhere it says it's not limited by heat. So you could have a problem if you take that out into the sun as well. And like I said, 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit is actually quite cool in climates like Australia or US or anywhere, even Europe for summer. So it could be an issue. Now remember, that's because they're downsampling to all of those megapixels and everything down as well. Sony, I think, have done the right thing by keeping this at 12 megapixels, so we're not going to have that issue. The other issue too is the waiting period is just awful, because if it does overheat, then you have to wait like 10 minutes if you're at 8K 30, and you can shoot for another 3 minutes. 8K 30, you have to wait for 20 minutes, and you can shoot for another 8. 4K 60, 10 minutes, and you can only record for another 10 minutes. So it is a problem, and they're saying that the camera, in fact, heats up why it's just even sitting there, which is a worry. So I think Sony's going to get totally around that by, like I said, keeping this at a 12 megapixel sensor and limiting that side of thing. Now they are going to talk about, they've got some heat things that I'll talk about as well. Now let me just bring that up, because I will talk about that here. They're saying in here that They're going to use a passive system to cool this camera down. And I'll read this out to you. It says, the new passive cooling system of the a7S III will be a little slit. So they're going to put a little slit on the side of the camera where the ports are, which allows the air to get in and out of the camera. And it will allow it to be cooler because the camera isn't completely sealed. Now, how that affects weather sealing, I'm not sure, because they're saying in a minute that it doesn't affect it. But because it's a passive cooling system, it will not make any noise, or sound, so it won't interrupt audio when recording video. The passive cooling slit on the side has a mesh, so the camera will still be weather sealed, so perhaps it's pointing down, and then if it was raining or it had drips or whatever, that it's just going to fall on the outside. I think that must be what it means about there. It will have dual native ISO. It will not have dual native ISO, which is a pity because dual native ISO is amazing. So I'm a bit disappointed that they're saying it won't have dual native ISO, which is going to be on the more expensive cameras like they have, like the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 4K. It will, however, have a new sensor that has a very fast readout transfer speeds for high frame rates of 4K 120, 180 and 240. So what they're saying is there's no active cooling that's been put onto this camera, which in a way I'm a little bit disappointed about because I don't really care about onboard audio. I mean, I'm always using external audio, and I think having something like the SH1 where it has a fan, I think the SH1 has a fan built in, would have been good, but perhaps they don't need it. And this is the thing that I'm saying, that it obviously doesn't need that. So I think that's going to be a great thing. Sony have had a long time working with heat now. Remember when we early on got our Sony cameras, they would overheat very, very quickly. In fact, I haven't had a Sony camera overheat in ages, and that's shooting weddings here in the middle of the Australian summer where, like I said, the temperature can be 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And I don't think it's an issue anymore. So I don't expect this to have any issues. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be, but I'm just talking about my experience from using Sony cameras lately. I don't think Sony are going to make that mistake again. So they're going to use passive heating in the camera, which sounds like it's going to be great. At least they have a vent. I think that's the area where Canon made the big mistake, was not putting a vent or something in. Canon deliberately, I think, made that to be more waterproof rather than to have it be efficient cooling, and that's one of the issues with the body that they developed. Yes, it has amazing waterproofing, but if it is that waterproof and sealed, there's nowhere for the heat to escape. So that is a real problem. Now, Sony having that little gap will probably make a massive difference because any heat that is in there can get out, and that's a great thing that Sony have done there as well. We have heard that the body is going to be the same as the a7R IV. I mean, that's what we heard. Whether that's exactly the same and they've just stuck this little vent in there, I'm not sure, or it may be a little bit larger in body size. I mean, I don't really care if the body is made a little bit larger. I think that all of us would wear that if it stops the camera from cooling down. So let's keep going anyway with what they've got inside the camera. Some of these specs are really amazing when you think about it, though. It records FHD at 240 frames per second. 4K at 120 frames per second, and I would expect full autofocus to be with these. You're probably going to get the Sony A9 autofocus. I think all the cameras that come out now from Sony have that. Even like I said, the ZV-1 has the Sony A9 tracking and everything as well. So I think you're going to get that also with this camera as well. So I think that's going to be great. I'm hoping that you also have audio with these. Now, I know some people are going to say, why on earth would you like to have audio on 120 frames per second? And the reason why I've said that is really important is because if you are shooting a wedding or something like that and you want to slow something down and you're shooting 4K 120, if something happens to one of your other cameras and you're not happy with that footage, you could still use that footage with the audio intact. So I think it's really important that the audio is intact. Now, I'm hoping it is. At least it'll be there for the 4K 60. But it looks like we're going to get 240 on 1080p, 4K 120 frames per second. We're going to get 422, 4K 120 frames per second raw over HDMI. Let me just quit mail so we don't get that anymore. So I'd say we'll probably, something like the Ninja V will get an update like it just has for the Canons and everything else. And then we'll get 4K 120 frames per second raw over that as well, which is brilliant. I mean, I'm very, very happy with those specifications. Also, it's saying here, now this I'm not sure about. I'm a bit amazed that they're saying it's going to have 600 Mbps bit rate. I don't know if that's going to be true. I would have expected there to be 400. Whether that might be that you'll get 600 if you go to then say something like a Ninja V, I'm not sure about. But if they are going to give 600, boy, are those files going to be massive. But incredible. I mean, finally, it looks like we're going to get better bit rates with the Sony cameras, and this is brilliant. It looks like at this stage, all internal, we're going to get the 240 frames per second. We're going to get the 4K 120, 10-bit 422. We're just not going to get the raw internal, and I'm completely fine with that. I don't mind that at all. Base ISO also has now going to be 160 for S-Log3. And I think before, just let me check, I think before, does it say it was a lot higher before? I don't use S-Log. I tend to use HLG3. I'm pretty sure it was around 800 or even higher before, whereas now it's going to go down to ISO 160 as well. Someone may be able to let me know in the chat what the base ISO was in the previous cameras, because I'm pretty sure S-Log3 was a lot way higher than ISO 160. Yeah, someone just mentioned 600 is excessive. Yeah, 600 is very high. But remember, I would always, and I've discussed this before, and I discussed this with when we're talking about the EOS R5, I'd always prefer to have that feature in there, and you can disable it or go lower, obviously. You could have 400, you could probably have 200. So it's a great feature to have. At least if you do want that amount of bit rate, you can, which will be incredible for editing your videos later on, but it certainly would be incredibly large file sizes, and also you'd need a beastie camera to edit it as well. Like I said, the base ISO is 160, no dual ISO. That's a bit of a disappointment. I am disappointed with that. The dual ISO is great because if you can get it, what it means is that you have native ISO basically in two sectors. So you could have, there'll be a low native ISO, and then you'll also get like another sort of native ISO when you're up around about ISO 4000 or something like that, where it kicks in. So not having that is a bit of a bummer, but there must be a reason why Sony haven't done that. The noise or the ISO may be so good, the low light of this camera, that it might not even be an issue, being the 12 megapixel sensor. So who knows, it might not have even been needed. Maximum ISO is 409,600 in video, which is just nuts. I mean, and I think it probably will be incredible. 16-bit raw output. Like I said, though, you're going to have to go to the Ninja V if you want that. Sony has also claimed 15 stops of dynamic range. So the dynamic range in this camera is going to be excellent. And look, the dynamic range of the A7S2 now is still amazing. The video files that are from that camera are beautiful. I had the A7S2 and I sold it. I only sold it due to the fact of the autofocus sucked. I mean, it was terrible. But the video output of that camera is incredible. It's beautiful, in fact. So I'm just can't wait to see how nice the video output of this is. I think it really will be stunning. Also, it was going to have the world's highest resolution EVF. It's going to be 9.4 million dot EVF. And I've discussed this before. Oh, thanks. Per said it was 1600 ISO. Yeah, well, there you go. So the ISO now has dropped from 1600 ISO down to 160 for S-Log3. It makes S-Log3 way more usable, which is fantastic. That's why I love HLG so much. The resolution of the EVF, I think, is really good. Now, remember, this is going to be a video-centric camera, so to have that ability to be able to punch in through the EVF and get critical focus is amazing. You know, and just to be able to check that if you are racking focus and things like that, that you can see how sharp the image is through the EVF. And in fact, I use the EVF all the time in bright daylight because I have trouble checking things like the zebras. If I'm checking the screen for exposure and things like that, it's very, very hard if you're dealing with bright sunlight when you're doing a wedding. So I usually get critical exposure through the EVF. So to have that EVF, I think, will be amazing. I can't wait to see how good it looks. New kind of passive noise-free cooling system with a mesh on the side to let air in, but the camera's still weather sealed. I think that's fantastic. And this is amazing. They're saying no overheating, no recording time limits. I think Canon made a really big error when they put a recording limit still on those cameras. There's no need to have manufactured recording limits on it anymore. That tax, I think, disappeared last year in Europe. So I'm not sure why Canon's decided to keep that recording limit on. I hated when I used to have to, say, shoot a wedding and I was doing speeches or it was a long ceremony, and I'd have to make sure that I got back before it would turn off at 30 minutes. If you're running multiple cameras, it's an absolute nightmare. So I just use that hack that was built in that you could install into your Sony cameras to override that feature so you could record for as long as you wanted to for the unlimited recording. I think Canon to do that was stupid. Like, that is a typical, you know, the Canon cripple hammer, and it's not needed, and it was stupid. So good on Sony for still not giving us that. And they're also saying no overheating and no recording limit. Now, if they're saying that here, I would expect that to be the case. I don't think we're going to have overheating issues with these cameras, but I mean, look, we may, but I don't think so. UHS-2 card support, so it'll have dual UHS-2 card support. That's fine. Being a 12 megapixel sensor and only running 4K at the resolutions they're running, it's not going to have an issue recording to both cards. It looks pretty similar to the Sony a7R 4. And like I said, it looks similar, but you're going to have that vent there. It might be a fraction wider to incorporate that vent. We'll have to wait and see. I'm very happy about this fully articulating screen like the one used in the Sony ZV-1. And the announcement is late July. Shipment starts in mid-August. Now, let me just check, because there was nothing else I missed from this second page, was there? No, it was only the heating I think I was going to talk about there. They're just showing here too that, excuse me, we are currently shooting video with the successor to the a7S II. The footage out of this tiny beast is incredible. We are shooting 4K 120 frames per second, 10-bit 422 with 15 stops of dynamic range. Our test showing comparable to the ARRI Alexa Mini. Looks unbelievable. Now, I'm sure Peter... is it Peter? I always forget Peter's second name. Peter Lindgren, I'm sure he's shooting with this. I noticed about 2 days ago, he said on his YouTube channel that he was going to be disappearing for 2 weeks. I put a comment on about, oh, you're off to shoot with the a7S III, are you, Peter? And he sent back a little laugh to me, a bit of a smiley face. So I'm sure Peter's probably already doing one somewhere in Europe. I think that's why Peter's disappeared. So I'm sure the cameras are now all out there. I would say all the ambassadors and everyone will be out shooting and getting these ready for their reviews. So I'd say that they're already out there. So I would totally believe that this statement is true, that they're saying we're already shooting out there with it. I bet you Peter's already out there shooting with it now. So really exciting. There's a few things I'm worried about. Like I said, I hope that Sony are going to put a decent touchscreen. I haven't heard that mentioned anywhere. Please, Sony, do not use that crappy screen that you've got. And look, I know some of you aren't going to like me saying that, but the Sony screens are terrible if you compare them to what Nikon and Canon are giving their users now. So please, Sony, don't give us that same crappy screen that we've already got. That's one wish that I'm hoping that we get, that it's a decent screen on the back and it's a touch interface. Please. I mean, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'd still buy the camera, but I'm just hoping that it has that. Mark said too, yes, I'd love it. A great point, Mark. I'd love there to be a full HDMI port, but I don't think we'll get that, unfortunately, but I would love it if they could, because I hate that micro HDMI. All it does is bend all the time. It breaks. I've heard of that many people that have to send their cameras back to get fixed due to that stupid port. Venom also said, yeah, Jason Vong's been missing in action. Yeah, they'll all be out shooting with this camera, that's for sure. Aaron said, Sony asked me to test it, but I refused. Me too, Aaron. Yeah, as if Sony had asked me to test it. So the screen is a worry. That's one thing that I'm dying to see if there's going to be an issue with it. And I so hope that's been fixed. It doesn't look like we're going to get an internal ND. I would have loved them to have done that, something like the ZV-1 or better. That would be just creaming, icing on the cake. And I'm just hoping someone's missed it and we've got that. The other thing that hasn't been mentioned too, I'm sure someone just said then too, I'm sure this will be USB-C, so we'll be able to charge through USB-C through this. I think that would be a given now. I'm just hoping they do change the HDMI port. The other thing is that hasn't really been mentioned is the stabilization. Now, we know that Canon has got 8 stops of stabilization, but there's a big but about that. And let me just show you something, and I want to show you this. Let me just click over to here. Now, this is from Peter McKinnon's video. I'm not playing the audio because the video will get it'll get hit for a copy. Guys, I'll be quiet just for a second because I've got to add my audio into this. So just bear with me while I add my audio in. Okay, so it should work now. Yep. Okay, so what I want you to look at here is this is showing, Peter's showing the stabilization here. Now, he does admit it straight after. He goes into his studio and he actually admits this, so it's good. Being an ambassador for Canon, he has actually admitted that there's some warping or weird stuff going on. Now, what I want you to look at is the outside edges of this video. And it's really some weird stuff going on. So let me click play. There won't be any audio, I don't think. There won't be any audio. So let me just see if this works and you'll see. Now check out the sides. Check out the sides of this video and what's going on with this stabilization. It's warping like crazy. And then he actually goes into the studio and he talks about it. Now, he says that it really only appears when it's on the wide angle part of the lens, but it's not true because I've noticed it through his whole video. There you see he sort of blows it in and he says it disappears. I think he was even showing it sort of warping in his studio through here as well. Let me just see if it's showing here. There's warping sort of going on the outside edges. And when he zooms in, it disappears. But throughout the whole video, I kept seeing that warping going on as well. So there's something really weird going on there with the stabilization of the EOS R5. I'm not sure what it is, but whether that's something that's going to be able to be fixed in firmware, I'm not confident, but Carl just said 8 stops of warp drive. Yeah, it's not good. I mean, I didn't like that at all. In fact, I thought it was awful on the edges. It was sort of this strobing in and out or warping in and out, and I thought it was really distracting. And when I watched it, first of all, I thought, whoa, because I noticed it right throughout the whole video, and I could see it happening through there. So. That's interesting. Now, obviously, you're not going to get that in the still side. So the still side, the stabilization is going to be unbelievable. And I have seen people hold it for 2 seconds and have stabilized shots. So that's terrific. But If the video side can't be stabilized, that's a worry for the EOS R when they're talking about how much the stabilization works on those cameras. But I just thought I'd share that. So we don't know yet what sort of stabilization we're going to get in the Sony a7S. Because they've not mentioned it, I think it's probably going to be very, very similar to what we've got with the Sonys now. I think it's going to be around about that 4 stops when you incorporate your stabilized lens and also your internal stabilization. I am hoping that Sony does do something with, like they've done with the ZV-1, some sort of UI where they can do this stabilization with software internal. That hasn't been mentioned, but it could be something that is there that they're just not talking about at this stage. So we may get better stabilization in software. I know that's possible because we've seen them do it in the ZV-1. Yes, there'll be a crop, but we know it's possible, so I'm hoping that that works as well. G'day, Casey. Good to see you here as well. Casey just said IBIS doesn't work with wide-angle lenses. They all warp even on an Olympus. Oh, thanks for that, Casey. So that's still an issue. So we still need to see what else we have, like I said, with the stabilization. So the things that worry me at this stage are this screen. I'm hoping that it's going to be a decent screen on the back, unlike the screens currently. I hope that it has a larger HDMI port because that sucks the micro HDMI port. I'm really hoping it has an internal ND built in like the ZV-1 and obviously USB-C chargeable and things like that. And the A9 video autofocus will be probably there as well. Apart from that, I think the specifications are amazing. As it is, I would buy this camera. Now, am I going to pre-order it? No, I'm not. And the reason why I'm not going to pre-order it is obviously we've just gone into another 6 weeks of lockdown. I'm not in lockdown personally where I am, but I'm just outside the lockdown. The whole of the Melbourne metropolitan area is locked down. So my weddings are finished for this year. I've had another two cancelled or postponed until next year now. So I just can't afford or justify buying one at this stage. And I'm in two minds about what I'm going to do. And I'll explain why. Because I'm thinking, for me, remember, I shoot Fusion. Now, I shoot Fusion and I want to shoot stills and video at the same time. Now, I think that I want to wait to see what the A7 IV has before I jump the gun and get the Sony a7S III. I'm hoping that something like the A7 IV will give me at least 24 megapixels. It might be more, it might be 30 odd, but it will give me that better stills image sensor. And I really believe the A7 IV will give me 4K 60. I really will be happy with 4K 60, and that's why I'm waiting at the moment. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to wait until the A7 IV is released because I think that will come before the end of the year. I'm almost sure that will come before the end of the year. Then I'll make a decision about whether I will get the A7S III or the A7 IV. I will definitely get one of these cameras probably by the end of the year, because next year I have got weddings booked, and unless the virus carries on and we're screwed like completely, I'll need something for next year for when I start doing my weddings again. So I will definitely get one of these cameras by the end of the year. I'm just not sure which one yet. I certainly would buy this camera if I was only a videographer though. If I wasn't doing stills, I would get the A7S the way it's announced at the moment. I wouldn't be happy if it's got that sucky back screen on it, but I'd still get it for the specifications alone, to have the no time limit, to have the 4K 60, 4K 120, which is more than I would ever need. Your 16-bit RAW files if you want to. 600 megabits per second bit rate is just nuts. No overheating and no recording limit. I would buy that in a heartbeat if I was a a Sony user. Now, I still recommend, like everything though, don't just take the word of the Sony ambassadors that are out there. Remember, they are basically being paid by Sony. So wait to see what happens when the camera's released. Guys, there's no rush. You do not have to rush. I think the days you are going to hear online for sure, oh, these cameras are going to be in short supply, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe it for 1 minute. With what's happened in the world at the moment, I don't think any of these cameras are going to be in short supply for long. So I would probably recommend you wait to see what the real world reviews are like first before you make a decision on which one you'd like to purchase. And that's just my opinion about how this is. I don't think you have to worry at all about getting these cameras in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, you might have to wait, a few weeks, but it's not going to be a very, very long wait, I wouldn't expect. So hang out, see how it performs in real life, and then make a decision about what you want to do. Unless you've got heaps of money and you just think, well, I'm just going to jump in, I'm going to pre-order it and get it on day one, I would wait. The hard part is if you are like me and you need fusion type cameras, that's the part that's hard because you have to make a decision about whether you'd like to wait for the a7 IV. 12 megapixels for me is a little bit light now. I would like at least 24 megapixels. And I still want the 4K 60. So I may just wait, like I said, to see what they announce with the a7 IV, which I think will be announced in fairly soon. I wouldn't expect that to be too far away. Sony have to bring out a camera that can compete with the R6. Now remember, this sort of camera, the a7 III as it's announced, sits between the Canon EOS R6 and the EOS R5. So it probably is more directly competing with the EOS R5 if you're talking about video specs. But they certainly haven't given a camera. Sony hasn't got competition against the R6 at the moment if you're talking about specs for specs. So I think Sony are going to have to answer that fairly soon, and that's why I think you'll see an a7 IV coming out fairly soon after the a7S III. So I wouldn't think it's going to be too far away. Anyway, now I'm going to keep going because then I can open up to Q&A because I'd love to know what some of you are thinking. I just also want to talk to you about this Blackmagic camera as well, just quickly. Let me just move this. Blackmagic, it's nuts. I saw this announced this morning. This new Blackmagic camera that's announced can shoot 12K RAW video at 60 frames per second. It's nuts. I mean, look how beautiful this camera is. I think, and what was it, about 10,000 United States dollars? Yeah, I think it was $9,900 or something like that. It captures 60 frames per second on a super 35mm image sensor for less than $10,000. It's the Ursa Mini Pro. The resolution is 12,288 by 6480. It has a super 35mm sensor. It's got 14 stops of dynamic range, a native ISO of 800, and an 80 megapixel sensor can be used to shoot 12K RAW video at up to 60 frames per second. This thing is nuts. It's beautiful, actually. I mean, Langston must be absolutely drooling. I just saw Langston just said, my precious, I love it. I mean, it's gorgeous. It really, seriously, if I had the money and I was a videographer, I would be on this like hotcakes because this thing is gorgeous. It really is beautiful. I mean, it's a stunning design. Fantastic. I mean, I really can't say too much about it because I don't shoot Blackmagic, but if you're dealing with technology for the price range that we are at now, how lucky are we? Seriously, I know $10,000 is a lot of money, but boy, when you think about what this can possibly do for $10,000, it is nuts. I mean, seriously nuts. Blackmagic really are kicking goals. They really are kicking goals. Look, this is not a camera for someone like me. This is a camera for a full-on videographer. I mean, it really is a camera for someone just doing full-on videography. But boy, 12 I just can't get over it. Can you imagine shooting RAW and being able to get the stills, 12K RAW files off this and being able to grab stills off this camera? It would be nuts. You could shoot a whole wedding with this, shoot 12K if you had the storage and just drag stills off it, and they'd probably be, what, 50 megapixel stills or some ridiculous figure? I mean, unbelievable. All right, guys, let's open up to Q&A. Just want to see what you guys have to say about everything. There wasn't much stories because I was concentrating today solely on the A7S announcement. So let me come back and see what people are saying. I'm not going to go right back. Yeah, the ISO is great. Now, that is one thing that Sony really have kicked a goal here. If you're shooting S-Log3, to drop that ISO from 1600 down to ISO 160 is amazing. So it gives you that ability to shoot low ISO shooting S-Log. And not only that, your bit depths are so much higher as well. So your log footage from the A7S3 is going to be outstanding. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to try that side of it. USB-C ports are fine, but not professional standard. As you know, that there are issues with the USB-C ports breaking, just as HDMI is not a professional standard. SDI is. Yep. Hopefully it's bigger and heavier. These tiny weeny Sony cameras I find a little small and light in my hand for handheld video. Yeah, it's true that the heavier the camera is, the more steady, particularly if you're hand holding it, not on a gimbal. I find if I stick the camera in a cage and it adds that little bit of weight, you can sort of get much more steady video hand holding. So yeah, I can understand what you're saying there. Guy with the camera says, I don't use the EVF much. I trust the AF. I use the EVF a lot for auto exposure. Oh, thank you so much for that donation. Someone just gave me a donation. Let me just see who it was. MM Cubero said, thank you for your advice every week, David. Cheers from Canada. I think your chocolate is cold now. Yeah, it is. Well, it's warm. It is a bit cold. Where were we up to? Oh, here we go. Yeah, I use the EVF all the time for checking exposure in bright sunlight. Hang said you can have a slit that only exposes a heatsink area but not the internals. I think camera manufacturers need to add NVMe SSD for fast data storage. That probably will happen eventually. It's just a matter of time. I'm not sure when, though, that's going to happen. If you find the body too small, you can always add a cage. Yeah, and that's exactly what I think too. For the photography side of it, I love the cameras being that small. If I'm doing video, I usually do put them in a cage, except if I'm shooting Fusion and then I've got it on a gimbal or something like that, and then I like it being small. Langston says, you do realise the amount of filmmaking done outside the studios and super professional setups dwarfs the professional ones. A cage on a camera will also improve the heat handling. Yeah, because it can get that heat away from the body. That's exactly right. What else? I think Langston's answering some questions for other people there. Per said 160 ISO will reduce the usage for an ND filter. You'd still need it though on bright sunny days. Here in Australia, even 100 ISO, I'm still having to use NDs, like quite harsh. So I'd love an internal electronic ND if we could get one, but I don't think we'll get it. Mark said the low sensor count is going to save power and will keep the body cooler too, a balancing act from Sony. Yeah. And like I said, because this is a video camera, Mark, 12 megapixels is not a problem. That will give you great images for like I said, taking into Final Cut, Premiere, whatever you want to do. Perfect for that type of stuff. It's perfect images for sharing on Facebook, perfect for sharing on Instagram, even blowing up to a reasonable size on the wall. So I don't think 12 megapixels is an issue. Oh, hopefully not a Rona cough. No, it's not. I always tend to get coughs here in the cold. They usually come and last for a few weeks. Alexander said, I didn't say USB-C is, but oh, he's talking to someone else. Okay. Hangs said, I've got my A7S already testing it. Yeah, you wish. Jason Vong's disappeared, they're saying. Hopefully more people use the locking connectors that are out there for them. Would be nice to see them built in. What's that for? Is that for the Blackmagic Lanston? I'm not sure. Mark said, let's hope the HDMI will be full size. I hope so too, but don't count on it. I would love that. When I had the GH5, I adored the full-size HDMI. It's terrible. I've broken so many of the cables, the smaller HDMI port, because they just, they break. And also, like I said, I've heard of so many people having to get the ports repaired on their cameras due to those little things. Like Aaron said, he got asked to test it, but he refused. What else? Thumbs up, please. Jim said, yes, I'd love it if you could give me a thumbs up, guys. We're up to 94. Are we going to crack 100? What else? John said, A7S III will not come anywhere close to the R5. I wouldn't be surprised, John. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Just wait and see. Jason said, if you're breaking a micro port, you're probably going to break a full-size port. No, I've never had that issue when I had the GH5. The difference is it's way stronger. The port on the small ones is very, very weak. If you compare it to the full-on HDMI, they're very, very strong and very, very robust. The small ports are really easy to bend. It makes sense because you're just talking about, physics. It's tiny like that. So as compared to having a big sort of bit of metal that's like that, they're way stronger, Jason, way stronger. Yes, the ZV-1 is still the bad screen, Raymond. It's still not the good screen. No, it's not like the EOS R cameras and the Nikon cameras. The Sony screens, they must have made a bucket load of them because they just do not want to change them, and I don't understand why. Wondering if there will be a huge discount, 1,000 on Black Friday, similar to the A7RV on the Black Friday. You never know. I think pricing-wise, they would have to price this. I think this will have to come under the EOS R5. So I think that's what the pricing is for that. What are we looking at pricing? Let me just check for that now. Let me just go to B&H. Just come over here. And B&H. Because I'm just curious to know how much the EOS R5 is. Is it 3.5? Canon EOS R5. So on B&H at the moment, the EOS R5 is 3,899. Hang on. Yeah, that's with the lens. The body only is 3,899. I think they'll put the Sony about 3.5. That's my guess. I wouldn't think it would be any dearer than 3.5. So that's my tip at this stage. Is that the what's the R6 coming in at? R6. So the R6 is 2,499. Yeah, I would think it's going to be $3,000 to $3,500. I don't think it'll be anything over that at this stage. I think that's what it's going to cost. I wouldn't expect to see it discounted for a while, though. Better be USB-C. I'm sure it will be. What else? Jason said, I haven't broken any port period. Laugh out loud. I don't abuse my stuff. We hit 109. Thank you so much for the thumbs up, guys. Thank you so much because we hit 109. The cameras have 5 stops without the lens IS. Copyright strike. Alexander said, David, all IBIS at wide angle warps. Laugh out loud. That's nothing new. I haven't seen it that bad, though, before. I haven't noticed that on my Sony cameras, though. And I use the wide angle lenses. I haven't noticed that warping at all. With the 15 to 35 at 15 millimeter has warping on all the R cameras. Oh, okay, well, I haven't had the 15 to 35. I haven't noticed the 16, though, has warped. I haven't noticed that one bit. Perhaps I've just been lucky. Venom says, I'm pretty sure I am the one that came up with the whole Peter McKinnon thing a while ago. 8 stops of warp drive. I love that. Even the Olympus with the holy grail of stabilization warps. And is that because it's digital though? Is that because they're using some sort of digital stabilization or not? Hang said UHS2 is 300 megabytes a second, not 300 megabytes per second. 1 megabytes equal 8 megabits. Megabits, I'm not sure what that was talking about there. Looks like a micro four thirds warping with wide angle lenses. Maybe that's unavoidable when you reach high levels of stabilization with wide angles in general. It's on a tripod. Stabilization should be turned off. What else? Warp is caused by electronic stabilization, so that's what people are saying, that it's the electronic part that's causing that. Pendex said, loved your A9 overheating video. So funny. Thank you so much. If you haven't watched that, check it out. I did a parody of the overheating for Canons, but it was based when I got the Sony because people were whinging about Sony cameras overheating. So if you haven't checked it, check it out. I think I had so much fun making that. So if you haven't watched it, watch it, guys. I really love that video. I think it's really quite funny. Hello, all cameras do that. Phil said, South Park has it right when it comes to Canadians. He's talking about someone else. Camera conspiracies, I read that before. IBIS doesn't work with wide lenses. They all warp, even on Olympus. I don't know why I haven't noticed that on my things. I've never noticed that on my 16 mil. I haven't even noticed that even on the 12 to 14. I don't know. What else have we got? Altrix says, oh, he's taking a nap. I love it. Mark said, we should mention the outstanding firmware for the a7 III that could update lots of things. Well, they could, but I don't think we're going to get one, Mark. I'm sure we're not going to get a firmware update. Not now, anyway. Not like that. Not now that new cameras are coming out, but we could hope. What else have we got? Any news on the Sony a7 IV? No, not at this stage, but I would expect that probably before the end of the year. Now that Canon have announced the R6, I would think that the R4 can't be too long away. So I would think that would be coming out fairly soon. Nim said, wait for Black Friday. We could get that EDU discount at B&H. The R4 was $1,000 off United States dollars. Similarly, I'm hoping for the a7S will go the same route. What else? No cameras for me, Gene said. 42 Pro says, I'll be waiting until Max does a side-by-side comparison of the R6 and the a7S III. And also the a7 Mark IV might be better fit and have 4K 60 as well. It just might be, and that's why I'm saying at this stage I'm probably going to wait to see what will happen. But either way, I'm just so happy that Sony are announcing this because I've got the option to buy it if I want to. Like I said, if you were a videographer, I'd jump on it. If I was just doing video, I would jump on it. Well, as long as I had the money, obviously. At the moment, everything's shut down. So, I mentioned that, Altric. How did you find the R6? Did you look at the screen, how much better that was than the Sony screens? Just curious if you could mention that in the live chat. Nathaniel said, I wanted a firmware update on my a7 III so I could get rid of the red box. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get it, unfortunately, though. You heard the Blackmagic has 12K for 10K. Yeah, I've discussed that already. Guy with the camera said, totally agree, shortages. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see shortages in this current climate. I really don't. Nim said, David, even Tamron's dropped the prices of the 28 to 75 and the 70 to 28 and all their primes. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's always going to happen. If you jump in immediately, you're going to pay the highest price. I'm sure if you wait even probably 4 to 8 weeks, you're probably going to see a price drop on all of these things. So it's worthwhile if you don't rush. I know we all have gas. I do too, but trust me, wait to see what happens in the reviews. Also, the prices will drop. So if you can wait, if you're not in any hurry, and at this stage, who is in a real hurry? Because none of us are working up to a full capacity. Well, I'll be surprised if anyone is due to everything that's going on in the world at the moment. There's no hurry. This is exactly why Sony won't give me one of these cameras, because I'm telling you not to hurry. else? Yeah, we've got 12 downvotes. Yeah, it'll be all the Sony haters. That's for sure. Altric said, the Canon R5 R6 is sweet. I will tell you that the R6 most likely will outsell the R5. The menus are sweet and the touch functions, yep. Like I said, when I used the EOS R, that was the EOS R, the menu system, the way it worked was amazing. The screen on the back was also amazing. Like I said, that's one area Sony have to fix. Alexander said, DP review confirmed the IBIS is very good on the R6. I got the 228 to 200 foot. I'm not sure what that is. Is that the 200 to 600? I'm not sure. Aaron said, in 5 years, I'll still be shooting 1080. The downvotes, Venom, don't worry me. They're still giving your channel likes, which is what cracks me up because it still is part of your analytics. Haters are going to hate you no matter what you do. There's haters always in this world. They are what they are. Just usually, like I said, they're usually people like Ken sitting in the basement with their grandparents or their mother. They are what they are. Gene says, I think you're wrong, David. The wait could be a year. I don't think so, Gene, but, you know, I don't think so. 100% agree with you, David. Wait for the real world reviews first. And you know what? Even if you do have to wait, Gene, if you have to wait to see how the camera really performs, I think it's worth it. Like I said, there's no real hurry at the moment unless you really have the need. And look, if you have the need, I'd say yes, perfectly fine. Go out and pre-order whatever you want. But if you don't have that sort of 100% need that you need it right now, I can get by at the moment with my A9 and the a7 III. I desperately need a 4K 60, but it's not when I say that. I can get by without it at the moment. That's why I'm going to wait. Crazy prices for the specs. Yeah, it certainly is. You're talking about the Blackmagic. There may even be a A7S4 not that long after the release. I mean, who knows? I wouldn't expect there to be. I think the A7 IV will be next to come in. I don't know, Mark, because I've never used the Blackmagic. I've only used the one that Langston has, which is the the smaller Blackmagic camera, and I loved it. I thought that was great. The Canon R6 is the hybrid. Yep, that's the one that the Sony have to compete with the A7 IV. That's the one. That's a direct competition for the Sony R4. Altric said the R5 was a pre-production model and didn't have the final firmware in it. Do they have monitors that can even render the 12K? Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? I just think the Blackmagic won the Cinema War. It's incredible. It really is incredible. DP Review had no overheating issues with the R6 in 24p, over an hour and no overheating. Were they using it outside in hot weather, Alexander? Love to know. Just seeing down what other people are saying. Langston's also talking about the B-RAW, and I know he's saying that you can edit that very, very well on computers, particularly I think with what Langston uses. I can't remember what he uses, his software. It wasn't Final Cut, it was the Blackmagic software. It'll come to me. Langston says, pretty sure someone at that company sold their soul to the devil for codec optimization. So far, the Blackmagic camera is the specification. I think the A7S will have better image. Yeah, I mean, they're two totally different cameras, those two cameras. So, so the 12K is 70 odd megapixels. Where did I see that? Oh, where was it? Oh, I've lost it. Don't know. I think someone said there it was 70 odd megapixels. Oh, there you go. 12K is 79 megapixels. So you could get a 79 megapixel still from that 12K footage. That is unbelievable. Do you think the A7S will include S Cinetone profile? No. They'll improve the colour science though. The colour science from the ZV-1 is the nicest colour I've ever seen from a Sony camera. So that will definitely be put into the A7S III. So I think the colour science is going to be outstanding. I think the days of saying the Canon is better than Sony are gone. The ZV-1 or the Z, yeah, it is a ZV-1. The ZV-1 is amazing. The colour is beautiful. So the Sony A7S is going to be amazing. I love the way David says bit depths. Thanks for that donation too. Thank you so much. Yeah, it did show that, Langston. I saw that. It shows them doing a Knife Camera live edit on the a Mac workstation. The Macs are incredible how they work like that. And the software, yeah, from Blackmagic is unbelievable. Let me just see what else. Greg said, super excited to see what the Sony a7S will bring. Competition is great for future R&D and Sony sensors are second to none. Expect this sensor to be something very special. I've got a feeling, Greg, that this sensor is going to be like the Sony A9 sensor. It's going to be a generational leap above anything else out there, and I can't wait. I'm so excited to see it. Altric says, I hope the A7S have redesigned the menus. I'm so excited for the A9 III. Raymond said, how do you think the 12 megapixel sensor photo would compare? It'd destroy the iPhone sensor, Raymond. It will destroy it. There's nothing wrong with the 12. The dynamic range alone is going to destroy. It's not even going to be in the same ballpark. Do not get so bet up about it unless you need to do big posters. 12 megapixels is actually very good. Like I said, I used to shoot weddings with a D3S, which was 12 megapixels. I shot weddings for that with years and blew up big posters. But like I said, I mean, I think I would wait for the A7 IV if you're a fusion photographer. I wouldn't buy this if you're a fusion photographer. This is more meant for videographers, and you've got to understand that this is a videographer's camera that can shoot some stills. I don't know how it'll compare to the D700 because I used to have that and I love that camera for the pixel pitch. I'm not sure. I would expect this to be better due to the fact that it's going to be a brand new sensor. Been appreciating your videos during those Canon drops, which for me were for a complete letdown. I wonder if Blackmagic will release an 8K version. Not sure. What's your best guess on the A7S price? I've said that $3,000 to $3,500 T-Lite. That's what I'm predicting this to run. I think they'll underprice the R5 for sure. Oscar said the sad part of this is we are going to lose the running gag of when the A7S III will be never coming out. I know. Jason said a slit with the exposed heat sink with proper fins will be able to help passively cool both the sensor and the internal storage. I'm just seeing what else people are saying. So why lower sensor? That is because it's a video camera. That's not a problem for a video camera. If you can shoot 4K 120, not a problem. Creative saying 389. Oh yeah, that was for the Canon. I think it'll be 3,000 to 3,500 for this camera. Sony a7S global shutter or rolling shutter. I'm not sure if this will be global shutter. There's still a possibility it might be. Probably not though now because I think we would have heard this. But I think it's probably going to be a stacked sensor. It's probably going to be something like a low resolution version of the A9 sensor. It'll probably be groundbreaking though in its class, I think. G'day everything man, how are you? Good to see you on here. I heard David is on Sony's payroll. Yeah, right. Oh dear. If you haven't checked the Everything Man's channel out, check it out. He has some good stuff on there. I'm just going down to see if any other comments jump out. The Magic 12K is Super 35, which makes sense, but damn, still able to achieve 14 stops. Yeah, I Remember, I think it's totally manual focus though, isn't it? Mark said the A9 firmware took a long time, so it's never too late for the A7 III. The Sony gods need to convene. It's not going to happen, Mark. I don't think we're going to get one on the A7 III. Just checking else what people are saying. Rob also said, I traded my A7 III in last week on the A7R III. You have a great channel, informative and up to date. Thank you so much. What else? I think that's about it. We're down. Oh, Altric said, if this A7S III have the fully functioning touchscreen and new menu set up, it's going to be a beast. Yeah, I know. I so hope. DaVinci Resolve. Thank you so much, Langston. Yeah, it's DaVinci Resolve runs so well on the Macs, particularly. That's what they were showing with that 12K footage. I think they used 9 layers on top of one another, and it was playing back in real time. It's incredible what these computers can do now. It really is. Thanks, Altric, and thanks, Langston, for saying it was DaVinci Resolve. Yep. Jason, my clients refuse anything less than 8K RAW. A new status quo has been set. I love it. Florio said, hello everyone, here from Long Island. David, can you see the NeoWise comment in Australia? No, I don't think we can. I don't think it's been mentioned here, so I don't think we can down here. Perhaps it's only in the Northern Hemisphere. Gene said, David, is the Sony money truck backing up to your garage? Yeah, I wish, Gene. I wish. And that's about it. Thanks so much, everyone. That's about it for today. I'll be back with Aaron next week. So we'll be back on Wednesday US time, Wednesday European time. I think we do it at 8 p.m. New York time. So we'll be back with Aaron. Also, I'll have a couple of videos coming up in the coming days. Check out the A9 overheating. It's sort of a dig at Canon. Check out that. It's all a bit of fun. I mean, check it out. It's the video before this one if you haven't looked at that. Please, if you can, leave all your comments about what you think down below. And if you do have anything you think Sony should put in, please put that in as well, because I'd love to know your opinions too about what you think about this. Just remember, when you're dealing with 12 megapixels, this is a video camera, so don't get too beat up about the 12 megapixel sensor. It is a video camera, and I think what they've offered is going to be amazing. If you're after a fusion type camera or hybrid camera, that's going to be the a7 IV. But at least Sony looks like they're going to do something for us, and I'm really excited about what they're going to announce. Stay tuned in the coming days anyway, because other things will come up and we'll discuss that as well. So apart from that, everyone, I'll see you in the next live, which probably will be with Aaron on Wednesday, and I'll see you all in the next show. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for the thumbs up, everyone. Really appreciate the support. Bye for now.